Hi, Garcia Gladiators. This is Miss Bings, and this is your Principles of the Constitution reteach slash retest. Let's dive right in. What we're going to do, we are going to spotlight each principle and then you'll answer a question. Okay? Let's start with federalism. Okay? You can clearly see that this right here is showing you that federalism shows the states plus the national government, the US, and that's where you get federalism. Basically, national and state governments have specific powers and they also share powers. Okay, so this graphic, it's so nice. It shows this cooperative spirit between the state. You see the state of Texas reaching out a hand, shaking the hand of the national government, the United States. Very nice. All right. Go ahead. If I were you, I would pause and I would take a snapshot of this. It has the definition there for you, it has a graphic there to help you, but it also reminds you that the 10th Amendment of the Constitution is the states' rights amendment. All right. It says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Okay. Just a little reminder. All right, this graphic shows you clearly there are some powers that should just fall to the federal government. Declaring war, it would be really confusing if individual states could do that. That's something we really just want. It's such a big deal. We really just want the federal government to be able to declare war. Coin money, that's also really important. If each individual state started coining money, then that would be a very unstable thing for the economy. So those are clearly delineated for the federal government. There's also this thing called the elastic clause that says do anything necessary and proper that that needs to be done for the federal government. There you go. The state government, they need to be the ones to establish schools, to conduct elections, and also, again, that reminder of the 10th Amendment assume other powers not delegated to the national government or prohibited to the states. So, nice and neat. These are states, these are the federal government, and the powers that they share, those are called concurrent powers. Things like establishing courts. Clearly, both national, local, and state governments should be able to establish courts. Levy taxes, again, not just the federal government and the state government, but also local governments need to be able to levy taxes to pay for government and public services and maintaining law and order. So I think the way this looks, everything makes sense. These are things that clearly fall under federal. These are things that clearly make sense. They should be state. And these are things that clearly federal, state, and local governments need to have. The problem is that it's not that clear cut. In the past, that's how we looked at it. We kind of looked at it like a layer cake. You could see the cake on the left. There's clear layers. This is the federal government. This would be the state government. This would be the local government. But we know it's not that simple. It's more like the cake on the right, which we call a marble cake. You see how it's all swirled and it's all mixed up? Programs and authority are mixed among the national, state, and local governments. So here's some kind of highlights to that. Take the COVID vaccine. The federal government spearheaded the development with Operation Warp Speed, but the way it got distributed, that became murky. Was it the federal government's job to say how it should be distributed, who should get the vaccine first, or does that fall to the states? And how should they go about getting it and making these decisions? It wasn't very clear cut. If you look at the map on the right, that shows how confusing such things as marijuana legislation. The the federal government, the national government, still has marijuana as illegal, but the states in the dark green, those are all states that have marijuana completely legal. And the states with any kind of green have some form of marijuana as legal, most likely medical marijuana. But you can see how that becomes not clear cut. The federal government is saying it's illegal, but some states are saying that it is legal. Who gets to make that call? And it all boils down to how you interpret that states' rights amendment, the 10th Amendment. All right, the picture on the lower left, that shows you there are environmental laws, pollution laws that the national government has, but there are actually states that go one stricter. They go even a little bit further than the federal law. And some businesses and some individuals might take offense to that and say um, that the states don't have that right. It's just not as clear cut as we would like to think it. But what I want you to do, I'm going to have it pause on this screen and you can answer your first question on Edpuzzle. You are going to look because federalism has to do with states and national government, like and how they share and specify who has what power. So you are going to look for the answer that demonstrates federalism, that demonstrates a state's rights, that demonstrates a state's power. All right, limited government. In this one, you just need to know two things. The government's restricted and everyone must obey laws. It's that simple. We want a limited government because limited governments give more power to the people. If you have unlimited governments, then that means those leaders in those governments can do whatever they want to and they don't have to answer to anybody. And that really limits the freedom of the people. We want the people to have the freedom, so we limit our government. Keep in mind the way we limit the government is through the Constitution. Okay? The Constitution specifies what a government can and cannot do. Right? And everyone has to follow that law. So the next question, it's going to pause on this screen, and the next question, you are going to look for limited government. You are going to look for the example that shows that everyone has to follow the law. So it shows an example of a leader that has done something wrong and they are going to have to face the consequences for it. All right, individual rights. We did our last unit on the Bill of Rights, on your individual rights through the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. So I don't want you to forget. So let's answer a question on the concept of unalienable rights. This comes to us through the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. It reads, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those things cannot be taken away. You are born with them." So, in the next question, you are going to look at this and look for the example of unalienable rights being taken away because it really impedes one's ability to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and maybe takes away equality. All right. We're still on individual rights. Here's the Bill of Rights. You guys went over this in the last unit, so I want to just like focus your attention to RAPS: freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. Now, religion, we know that is your freedom to practice any religion you want or not practice a religion, but the others really have to do with the what your freedoms are when you want to hold your government accountable or you want to practice the limits of the government, you want to protest, or you want to ask them to make changes. So assembly is when you gather together for political reasons. Press is publishing text, either criticizing the government or just about the government. Freedom of petition, you basically are asking the government to take certain actions, or freedom of speech, being able to vocalize your opinion. So on the next question, you're going to look for an example of RAPS, some way that someone is exercising their right to hold a government accountable. All right. Popular sovereignty. In Latin, popular, populus, it goes with of the people. Sovereignty in Latin would mean power or authority. So we are talking power to the people. The way you go about exerting your power would be through voting. Okay, so sorry. Well, let's go back. This is where I wanted to pause when you answer your question. So, for popular sovereignty, you are going to be looking for the example that shows people having the power, exerting their power by voting. All right. Republicanism. This person is voting. It's important to vote because in a republic, that is how you that is how you practice your popular sovereignty. Okay? Because in a republic, you vote for representatives. You elect representatives. Republicanism, REP, representatives. All right. So, what I want you to do is take a look at this and know, just kind of understand the reason we have to go indirectly by voting for representatives is we can't possibly vote directly on every single issue. That would take that is just not feasible. It would just take too long. So we vote for people that we think have similar beliefs and that will vote the way we would like them to vote on certain issues. And we vote for them and hope they get elected so then they can vote the way we want them to. Okay, so on the next slide, the next question, I want you to look for the answer that shows people voting for representatives that are going to represent their interests. All right, separation of powers. This is the one about the three branches of government. All right, it says LEJ in the picture down there. We are talking legislative, executive, and judicial. All right, three branches of government. Power is divided amongst them. They each have their own job, basically. All right, so you could kind of see that it's the same branches for the United States and for Texas, for the federal government and for the state government. You see that they both have legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We call our legislative branch the state legislature. They call theirs Congress. That's your Senate and your House of Representatives. Our executive branch, we call the leader a governor. Their executive branch, we call the leader the president. Um, both the judicial branches for both have courts, have Supreme Court and lower courts. All right, the legislative branch, their job is to make laws. The executive branch, they carry out the laws. You might also have heard execute the laws or enforce the laws. You can see also to the executive branch of our state government has a lieutenant governor, that's like a vice president, and an attorney general. The judicial branch, they interpret the law. They are the state's court system, or for the national government, the Supreme Court and the lower courts. All right, so you can see that the three branches of government, you have the legislative branch with the Senate and House of Representatives, they make laws. The judicial branch, they are the Supreme Court, they interpret laws. And the executive branch, they are the governor and they enforce the laws. So on the next question, look for a clear cut answer. It's just talking about the three branches, the bodies of people involved and their specific jobs. So it could be the legislative branch, it could be the judicial branch's job, or the executive branch's job, but you're just talking about that branch and their job. All right, last but not least, checks and balances. So, those three branches we were talking about in their jobs, that's not it. They also have certain roles to make sure the other branches don't get too powerful. So that's called your checks and balances. The three branches of government make sure that the others don't abuse their power. Okay, why do we have them? Like I said, so one doesn't become too powerful. That would not be in the best interest of our democracy. Here is a great graphic if you want to pause and you want to take a picture of this for your last question, I would do so. You have the executive branch that's represented by this hat, and they check the judicial branch represented by the scales of justice and the gavel. They check the Supreme Court by nominating the Supreme Court justices, but the judicial branch can check the executive branch by declaring their presidential acts unconstitutional. Now, the executive branch, the president can veto legislation. If the legislative branch says, hey, please sign this bill we just passed, the president could say, no, I'm not into that, and veto it. All right. But the legislative branch, the Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, they can impeach a president if they feel the president has done something wrong. Right. The legislative branch can check the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, by impeaching them, and the judicial branch can declare their laws unconstitutional. So you see, they are checking and balancing each other. So you are going to look for an answer that shows one branch kind of holding the other branch accountable. All right. I hope you guys did great. I hope you raised your grade, and I hope you have a great rest of rest of your day and week and year. Thanks.